and we drove $2.5 million worth of revenue in 36 hours. $2.5 million worth of closed won revenue.
In 3 days. That's amazing.
In a day and a half with 50 Gs.
A day and a half, 50 Gs. So that's a really good ROI, and that's a really good time frame.
So I feel like the whole goal of Two Truths and a Lie is engagement, but for me, it's like, how can I make myself sound as cool as possible, right? So here are my 3 truths and a lie. My 2 truths and a lie. 1, I paddled out to surf by myself during a shark fishing tournament one time.
Wait a minute. You what? Paddled out?
2 truths and a lie, bro. 2 truths and a lie. 2, I skipped school on my 18th birthday to go skydiving. 3, I shattered my wrist snowboarding in the biggest jump I've ever taken, and I never went back into the terrain park. Those are my 2 truths and a lie. What do you think?
Okay, so say that again. I paddled out to the in shark-infested waters to participate in a shark tournament or a shark.
Yeah, I paddled out to surf by myself in a shark fishing tournament. I skipped school to go skydiving on my 18th birthday, and then shattered my wrist snowboarding, and then quit the terrain park forever.
All right, everybody, come in contact. Comment on what was Pablo's thing. Okay?
Pablo's attempt to sound like a really cool extreme sports athlete when I'm really mediocre at all these things.
All right, everybody, come on. What is it? Okay. My goodness. Okay. We have 22 people right now simultaneously on the thing. All right, listen, I will venture my answer, okay? I just think that this is too dangerous and risky, so I'll just say paddled in a shark tournament. Paddled in shark-infested water. All right. There we go. So I don't think you paddled out into shark-infested waters. I don't know. Anybody else? And let me see. Let me go. Okay. Sipele Alapai says number 1 as well, right? So she's in the Hey Summit chat.
Hard to believe I'd do something that stupid, right?
Yeah.
Real hard to believe.
Okay. So anybody else? All right. I think that people are a little bit hesitant right now. But what's the lie, man?
The lie is number 2. I didn't skip school. There was a teacher work day that day, but I did lie to my mom to do it. The shark fishing tournament, I had no idea that was happening. I drove up to this place called Hobe Sound, which is like 2 hours away from Miami. I got there was nobody out, and the waves were perfect. I'm like, what's going on? I paddle out. The first wave I see coming in, it's like beautiful rolling wave. Sun hits behind it. The shadow's like moving towards me. All of a sudden it turns, and it's a shark like right in front of me. And I'm like, fuck. But I had no idea. I did not know that there was a shark fishing tournament happening, right? So I was like, well, I just drove 2 hours. I'm here. This thing can take me. So I stayed. Nothing happened. And then when I paddled back in, people were like, you're an idiot. There's a shark fishing tournament going on right now.
Oh, that's huge, man. That's hilarious. Okay. So Sipele, you and I lost. You didn't go skydiving and skip school.
I did go skydiving. I just didn't skip school to go skydiving.
Oh, you didn't go. Oh, you went skydiving.
Work day.
Okay. And then you shattered your wrist.
That definitely happened.
Doing what again?
Doing like the biggest jump I've ever done on a snowboard. And then at that point I realized I got to stop doing big jumps on a snowboard, and I stopped going into the terrain park, and I just started snowboarding downhill, and that's it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. And by the way, now now with your 2 truths and a lie, I kind of think that you're an extreme sports guy.
Right. Yep. I'm trying to be like I'm Point Break out here, when in reality I just suck at all that stuff, but I really like doing it.
All right. Perfect. Well, listen, let's get into it. I think this is going to be more of an interactive session, right, Pablo?
Yeah, man. As I feel like in a lot of these summits, there's a lot of right? Like there's a lot of these like frameworks and a lot of this type of stuff. And really what I wanted to tell was a story, right? Like I think when you talk about category design, it's all about the story and the narrative and the POV and all this type of stuff. And I think the best way to like explain what happened here is to tell the story about what happened, go into kind of like the core concepts in it, and then reveal a couple of like non-obvious insights and ahas from it. Right.
Okay,
So,
perfect. So listen,
yeah.
why don't we get started with just you kind of introducing yourselves? Because I was going to do your intro, but I thought maybe it'd be better if it came from your mouth, because I don't want to just read from your bio.
Sounds good. I'm a bit of a hype man myself, so I'm happy to intro myself.
Perfect.
Man, yeah. So I 10 years ago at my brother's funeral, I had this insight about the value of community when like 1,200 people showed up to it. And from that moment on, I've been like super obsessed with the concept of like how community actually drives business outcomes, and how to like prove that community creation is like the future of business development. And in doing that, back then I was in construction, 15-year career in construction. I was like director of sustainability. I didn't really have a very interesting job. I used that stuff to become a business developer. Then I joined this like startup for e-commerce. I turned this startup around using these concepts, and I started a company, kind of like doing this as a service. It's like a marketing agency called Be the Stage. And I've hit a couple of home runs doing this, like building community for people. I created like a $40 million channel for this like real estate development company. I transcended kind of like the customer base of this other like event company. And then a little bit over 2 years ago, I keynoted the biggest event in the property management industry. And in doing so, this startup, Vendaroo, saw what I was up to. It is an AI maintenance solution, which is the biggest problem in property management. So it's like completely AI automating the biggest problem in property management. I took them on as a client. 3 months into it, it was going so well that we worked out a deal where I became their chief evangelist. I'm a partner in the company. I've got equity in it. And I still have my marketing agency Be the Stage, but I'm also front and center category designing, trying to win the Silicon Valley Mortal Kombat tournament of AI supremacy right now. And we are in it, man. Like we're in like round 2 or 3 of it. And it's really been an incredible thing. And I think the first like 6 months of what I did with Vendaroo is a really, really good example of what we are talking about here, right? Like how you use category design to build this narrative and then take over an industry conference and do a quintessential lightning strike that created unbelievable results that we're still eating from.
Fantastic. Okay, so the story that I think you're going to tell, or that I'd love for you to tell, is the story of how you did that.
Yeah,
Vendaroo,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So we were, I had you on my podcast, and it was I think one of my best episodes. Yours and Chris Stanley's one. It's funny because the category designers were always the best ones.
Yeah.
And Russ Henneberry's as well. But so tell me a little bit about how you got started with Vendaroo as them being a client of your company. What did you do for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, we do what Be the Stage does, right? Like we create this, what we first start off by figuring out, hey, what is the story that we're going to tell in the industry, right? So we did this point of view workshop. This was September of 2024, right? Like we got together, got these exercises that we go through to develop a POV, use the category formula, the category creation formula that I learned from the category design advisors, to really try to write out this narrative, right? And the narrative that we came out with at that time, right? It's evolved since, right? But the narrative that we came out with at that time was this idea that while property management continues to essentially be the same business, right? The context around it has really, really changed, right? Like nowadays in property management, you have so many stakeholders. It's a really complex business, and you have all these different stakeholders. And one of the biggest stakeholders is the resident, right? Like the renter. And renters are much more likely to complain about something audibly than to like say that you're doing a great job when you're doing a great job, right? Like that's just like the nature of it. And because of that, the Google review has become this like really like Achilles heel in the reputation of a property manager. But what renters and owners and the rest of the world doesn't understand is that like this mostly happens when maintenance happens, right? Like when something goes wrong in your house, you're like, I'm pissed off. I want this fixed right now. Right. And that's a
Leak or
really
something,
complicated
yeah.
thing to solve because the average maintenance work order, right? Like AC isn't working. And I tell my property manager that it takes about 19 human touch points to get that fixed on average. Right. So like imagine that across a whole portfolio and it creates this like giant risk that at a human scale, it just makes this like unending firefight of tasks that you're always having to do at like really high stakes when people are the most kind of like sensitive to things. And that's why finding a way to like do that with AI, to take to eliminate kind of like all these mundane tasks and automate them with AI is not just a great thing for your business, right? But it's gonna like take away this injustice of the Google review and all these things, right? So like that was kind of like one of the first POVs that we came out with, and from there we went and did what I'm still do for other companies, right? The whole podcast as a trade show booth, right? Like meaning we had a couple of trade shows lined up for them. We would use this narrative to engage people in conversations, and in their trade show booth, instead of like having a table with like a computer and some like tchotchkes to give away, we had lights and cameras and microphones, and we had people talking about like, hey, like let's talk about this whole idea of like the unfairness of the Google review and how it always happens with maintenance, and what do you do to get good Google reviews? What do people need to know about you that they don't know, that you don't have time to tell them because you're like stuck trying to make everybody happy, right? As we're doing that, I'm talking to their clients. I'm talking to the rest of the market. Like it's obvious that this is a giant problem.
Mhm.
But we're creating all these allies, right? Like we're creating these allies in the industry. This company had originally come into the industry. The industry, I don't know how many other kind of like verticals are like this, but there's a bit of like there's like a clique inside of it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an SMB clique that goes to all the events, and there's like a handful of like popular kids. And in order to get into the popular group, you got to pay your dues, and you got to do all this type of stuff. So they were having a hard time kind of like breaking into that conversation as a newcomer in AI, that everybody's talking about AI and all this
Good old
stuff.
boys club, right?
Yeah, it's really more of like a mean girls club in our industry, right?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, like it's people like to fling mud around, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's what so 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 because we were, so like we started doing this podcast as a stranger booth, and we started kind of like drawing in people that before weren't really giving us the time of day. One of the people that brought that we got to talk to that day was a guy that showed up. I've become really good friends with him. This guy, Jay, he showed up. He's like, hey, I'm like the expert in AI in this industry. I'm the coach that helps people with this stuff. So I need to know what you guys are doing. Cause people ask me about stuff all the time. And for me, the community creation for business development guy, one of my KPIs of like success is like, hey, buddying up with the people that are experts so that they like talk about us on stage when they get booked to speak and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh yeah, come over here, bro. Like interviewed him on the podcast as a trade show booth thing, created all this content for him, built up a really, really good relationship, started getting that conversation going. And after I did like 2 trade shows with him in that like September, October time span, I realized, man, this is an ideal opportunity here for category design, right? Like it is a moment where the world is changing, that's creating these like new solutions for old problems, and we got to change it to this innovation. And at that point, that's when we started having this conversation about like, should they buy my company? Or like, how do I join this thing full time and get some upside in it, right? So at that point, we did that, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when it really kind of like started. We had this goal, right? The biggest conference of the year is called Broker Owner.
Mhm.
It is where only the CEOs, founders of property management companies are called broker owners, right? So it's only like the heads of the companies that are like our exact ICP at this conference. It happened to have been the conference that I keynoted the year before, right? So I have some like inroads in there, and I knew that for us to like, we had to get to broker owner with a lightning strike, right? So what do we do? On the way to broker owner, 2 things happened, right? Like one was because I made friends with Jay, we talked about this idea of like, hey, I learned this trick when I don't know if you remember, but the reason why I know Damp and Kevin and those guys is because we started this like category thinkers community a couple of years ago. We used kind of like my framework of what we do at Be the Stage to start that thing. And in doing that, we had a podcast with Sangram Vajra, who is a world-class category designer himself, right? Like,
oh my God, yeah, he was the CMO of Terminus.
Yeah, Terminus, right? Sangram's used this like same playbook at Terminus, at go-to-market advisory, and like at the thing he's doing, like he's rinse and repeat this like really badass community framework where like, you know, to get Terminus on the map, it was an ABM software. He started this event series called like Flip My Funnel, where he didn't make it about Terminus. He made it about like the mission, and he brought in all the experts, right? So I've studied that for a while. I presented that to Jay. I'm like, hey Jay, let's do like an AI virtual summit. Like if you're the coach in AI, like we should be doing these events and we should be doing this thing, right? So like we launched this like AI virtual summit end of January when this conference is in March. That was a big like coming out moment of like me and him hosting that, grew our list immensely, and started really building momentum. We built this like AI alliance. We picked these like, I had him curate, right? He's the expert. Curate who the most advanced AI companies are in the space for the different verticals. We created this event that started to give us some like, you know, kind of like credibility amongst other players that are a little bit more established and doing these kinds of things, and much more visibility thanks to his validation, thanks to the other folks. And we had like 700 people at this virtual summit, which was epic, right? Like just shows there's like a hole in the market for like doing exactly what what you're preaching, right? These like summit strikes, right? So built that credibility there on the way there. The other thing that I started working on was when I keynoted the conference a year prior, this association, NARPM, which is the National Association of Residential Property Managers, they have a problem. They're also going through a context change, right? Like these like old school industry organizations are now being that like their value is like, hey, we're the watering hole and we're like where you get education from and your certifications and whatever. All of them are under attack by like the biggest influencers in the industry basically don't need them anymore, right? Slash can disrupt them completely.
Right.
So they were looking at how to, you know, validate kind of like their certifications and add more value to what they're doing. And, you know, I approached him and I was like, hey guys, you remember how I gave that keynote last year? You guys all thought it was really smart, but you couldn't afford to hire me. Well, how about if this Vendaroo company sponsors me making this like content for you guys that helps you market your accreditations and your educational programs? And I'm like, oh my God, that would be amazing. So I was like, cool. All I need is give me like, I just need a side room at this broker owner thing and I'll do my thing, right? Like what Be the Stage does is essentially like content experiences at trade shows, like these podcast trade show booths and stuff like that. So they gave me that space, and they decided to give me that space like a month before the conference, right? So I'm like, shit, I got to go figure this thing out. I go out to Colorado to see it, and it's like a 2,400 square foot like huge room, right? Where I'm like, I can't just have like a corner where I'm interviewing people at. We got to activate this space, and we're doing it. I went out there. I made friends with another coach that's local there. We made some content while there about like what's coming up in the conference and stuff like that. And then, dude, in 5 weeks, I ended up, you know, really just putting together this lightning strike, which this is what the lightning strike looked like, right? So we ended up branding that space the AI Pavilion, right? Like we didn't make it about Vendaroo. We didn't call it the Vendaroo thing, right? Like put on by the AI Alliance. Right. I got this like 20 by 20 circular structure, and I put quotes from people that had been on my podcast on the way there about AI, founders of the different AI Alliance companies on it about AI, and like quotes from leadership in Vendaroo, of course. And then quotes from like Satya Nadella and like Tim Cook about it. Right. So it's like, it became this like status attributing like place to talk about AI. Jay, the coach that I had partnered with from the AI summit, he used AI to create like a state of AI in the industry report that we'd be giving out from that like pavilion area. In the corner, I had the interviews that I was doing for like the NARPM designation things. Right. So I had like all these company owners coming so I could like make content for them and walking through this experience. We then took the rest of the space and created, we first of all created these like anthropomorphized cardboard cutouts of our AI agents, right? They look like kind of like Daft Punk bunnies, right? And that had like the titles of the different agents. Basically welcome them in across like these like demo stations where people could come and like interact with the agents themselves, right? Like one was a receptionist that could take calls. Another one could like troubleshoot and figure out what's wrong with your toilet. Another one could like dispatch vendors, right? So people were coming in to like do it with these like demo stands. On the demo stands, we had like the computer to do it, and then we had this tablet below it, and we made this like Snapchat filter that when somebody would walk in, they would put the Daft Punk, like they would put like a version of like our logo on their face. So it's like, this is you inside the computer, man. We're making, like an AI version of you that could like run this kind of thing. Yes. Right. Yes, so like telling that kind of story. And then after people would interact with them, we also had, we would ask them a question. Hey, if you were trying to hire for this position and somebody came in with this skill set on day one, this good, and they told you, I'm this good today, I'll continue to get better, and I'm never going to like take a day off, I'm never going to quit on you, I'm never going to be cranky, would you consider them A, one of like the best hiring prospects you've ever seen, B, an above average, like prospect, C, an average prospect, D, below average? And we had a screen as people were walking out that showed the results, which ended up saying 76% of property managers think agentic AI is an A level hire, 18% think it's a B level hire, 6% think it's a C, right? And that leads to 100, I believe, right? So, so we did that.
So you were doing original market research with that.
Original market research, telling a story, right? Like this will go into like the insights and like what worked here. And like a couple of other things that we did was because I had shot content there a month prior, we ran Facebook ads. Like we geo targeted that zip code and ran Facebook ads of like, come to the AI summit, come to the AI. If you want to learn about AI, broker owner, come to the AI Pavilion, right? Like just like anybody that was on any kind of like meta platform in that zip code, whether they're at that conference or not, we're like, what the fuck is this AI Pavilion, right? Like, so people were going to that. And then the coup de grace was we had this AI robot photo booth that was like roaming the hallways out in front and like in other places. And when people would walk up to it, it would take a picture of you. It would ask you a couple of questions of like who you are in your business, take a picture of you. It would make like this like AI picture of you as like a wizard or like a Terminator or whatever. And then to get the printed out picture, they told you go to the AI Pavilion and we'll give you the picture. Yeah. Right. So doing all that in 36 hours, we were, in 36 hours, we ended up spending about $48,000, right? Which is, that's like real money for like somebody like me and you, right? That's not a lot of money for like a trade show, for a company, right? And we drove $2.5 million worth of revenue in 36 hours.
How much again? How much again?
$2.5 million worth of closed won revenue.
In 3 days. That's amazing.
In a day and a half with 50 Gs.
A day and a half, 50 Gs. Okay, so that's a really good ROI, and that's a really good time frame.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's a lightning strike, right? So, spoiler alert, if you're gonna take over, an event without spending a whole bunch of money, right? Like I think when people think lightning strikes, they're like, oh, they think like Dreamforce and like, spending a ton of money. If you're gonna take over an event, like without spending a ton of cash, it's going to take you time to like build up to it. Right. Like, but these results are real, right? Like you can drive a whole lot of revenue, with not a big investment if you adhere to a couple of these principles that I want to share. So I'll stop right there and like, and punt it over to you. See if you got any questions or you want me to go over kind of like what the pillars are of like what really worked here.
I want to make one comment from something you said earlier when you were doing the podcast activation booth at the NARPM show, or what was the show again?
At all of them.
Yeah. Okay. So that you would, so on behalf of Vendaroo, you would interview property managers and get into the pain that no, you would interview, property managers and get into the pain that they were experiencing
Yeah.
of, not, bad reviews on Google reviews, et cetera. So you kind of already knew, or you had a good hypothesis about the pain, but then you went out and you kind of verified or validated the pain through the podcast. And I think that was really cool. You had a very specific pain that you really wanted to harp on, and you got that, and that enabled you to have, to create this momentum with identifying the pain, which is, a huge part of category creation, right? So I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, listen, man, I think the POV is many things, right?
Mhm.
Like Damp and Maney will tell you it's the North Star of the company.
Mhm.
But when you have a good POV, it provides the perfect kind of like frame for a conversation for your content stream.
Mhm.
Like engaging people in how the world is changing and the pains that they feel. And like, do we see a new way and do we agree on like what the future can look like is a really, really good way to do it. As opposed to having a podcast about yourself.
Yeah.
Or a podcast that doesn't really tie back to your product, right? Like Lord knows I've done that. Like I've definitely had plenty of like interview podcasts that were just about like, oh, I just want to meet people and it's a good ABM play and stuff like that. But like, if you can wrap it in a POV, then, not only do you get to have the conversations with people that you normally don't get to have when you have a stage to offer, but it's always getting back related to like the thing that you're trying to solve in a non-salesy way, because you're talking about the problem, not about your solution. And when you're talking about the problem and you have a great solution for it, guess what? There's always going to be an opportunity to tie it back to that yourself, right?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the POV is so huge, and it's like what you said about Sangram Vajra is, he was pushing the flip my funnel concept. He wasn't pushing Terminus.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
Cool. So yeah, go ahead. I'm dying to hear about the solution. So what you?
Yeah, man. So here's kind of like the here's what I want you to take away from like how you would have to do a lightning strike, right? I learned a lot about event marketing with one of my past clients, right? Like I had a client called Rockway Exhibit and Events. They're a trade show booth and brand experience builder, right? Like if you are going to win at an event, right, like a lightning strike, you got to figure out a way to get butts in the seats. there is no and or buts about it, right? Like,
Yeah,
so what is the, how do you get butts in the seats? Is through distribution, right? Like, yes, you can elbow grease it and text all your friends and like make outbound calls or whatever, but you start to get leverage with that if you start to think about like distribution channels, right? So what were our distribution channels? Our distribution channels were that AI alliance that we created, right? Like that event that we did brought us a whole bunch of people, and the partnerships with the other AI companies that were in the AI Pavilion that were being highlighted also gave us distribution channels, right? I forgot to tell you, we gave a space to each of those companies inside that space to like hang out and like take meetings and whatever, right? So that was one distribution channel. The other distribution channel, that NARPM partnership, right? Like we had like 25 broker owners come through to be interviewed, walking through this space, being like, what is this AI wonderland that's happening here? With this like narrative that's being told, right? So that was another big distribution thing for us. The ads that we ran, that was some level of distribution, but like it got exaggerated by me doing those ads with a local coach that's really well known in that area because I was there a month prior, right? So it's like this idea of kind of like guilty by association, kind of thing. That is a big piece of distribution because it's distribution with social validation. And then there was the AI robot, right? Like then there was like a little bit of extra pizzazz too, right? But that was a little bit of distribution. But I want to really hit on the idea. So that's the distribution of how we got butts in the seats.
Yeah.
And at a very, and I want to really just like harp on the idea of guilty by association here. That's another thing that I learned on the Category Thinkers podcast. I don't know if you remember when Jared something or another and this other dude, they came out with, it was called Nearbound. They were trying to like design a new category around partnering and partner marketing and partner development and stuff like that they called Nearbound. And they had recently just come off of HubSpot where they took over HubSpot.
Right.
And you can listen to it on the Category Thinkers podcast. Their thing was like, hey, how do we get everybody to like talk about their thing, but then explain how their thing is kind of like near bound, right? And so they were just like providing opportunities for people to talk about their thing, and then them like defining kind of like what the near bound thing was, and like partnering with the event to be able to like do that type of stuff with people that really matter, and validating everybody all the way around of doing this like new thing, right? So the guilty by association thing, it's like there's distribution, and then there's like socially validated distribution that people walk into with trust, right? That really accelerated the idea of like, hey, not only did we get butts and seats, but we got butts and seats that were already kind of like going there, feeling familiar with us because we were a friend of a friend at the very least.
Yeah, that's it's also kind of like I also call that borrowed credibility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think in our podcast, I remember you saying borrowed credibility, and I thought I need to say borrowed credibility instead of guilty by association because nobody likes to be guilty.
No, but I think guilty as association is kind of like the alternative, contrary way to say it, and I think it's cool, man. It's very
well.
popular.
That's how my mom would say it when she didn't want me hanging out with kids, right? Like, did your mom ever tell you, "Dime con quién andas y te digo quién eres"? Right?
My abuelita said that.
Yeah, that's the oldest guilty by association in the book, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so finding a way, right? Like getting that distribution, like understanding how to get butts in the seats, and then finding a way to get social validation with those butts that are coming to the seats is really, really big. And then super, super, super crucial to events, to a lightning strike, right? Is a very clear from to, right? Like,
yeah, and the category guys yesterday, Mike, Damp and Maney, they showed that in the slide. I was actually Damp. He had that from to, and I wanted to ask him to explain that deeper, but we ran out of time. But I'm so glad you brought that up, man.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Before and after, right? Before and after.
Yes. Man, as category design is definitely a craft that I have really studied. And in order to like get good at it, I've also had to really study and master the art of story, the craft of story.
Right.
And if you study story, you understand that the one thing that defines a story is that there was a journey that happened in the things that you just said. And that journey has to have had a transformation that happened within it. That's the from to. And as you start to detail it out, whether it's like marketing story stuff or movie telling story stuff, you start to realize that to tell a really good story, there's one big kind of like arc of like transformation that happens. And in order to make that arc happen, each beat, each scene in the movie, each slide in the PowerPoint has a very distinct from to that gets you there, gets you there, gets you there, gets you there. Right. And events are one slide in a PowerPoint of a relationship, or one scene in a movie of a relationship that you have with the audience. Right. So if you are hosting an event, you got to get really, really clear about what that from to you want to create at an event so that you can orchestrate that to happen. Right. Or else it's just a cool thing that people forget. For us, we got really clear that the from to we wanted people to have is we want people to go from thinking that AI was like a technology tool to believing that AI is ready to be hired as a teammate. Right. And that's why we gamified it. That's why we had the scoreboard. That's why we created that user generated data. And the story was super freaking effective because it went from like, AI is cool, I'm just not sure if it's ready for prime time, to, oh shit, like I need to think about this differently. And these people are doing something that nobody else is doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's huge. And you know what? It seems like as though now it all makes sense, because it was like, at first I was thinking, wow, he was really creative about coming up with all those things. And not to take away from the creativity, but now it really seems like as though, well, it's logical. You could be creative within a structure of wanting to do from and to.
Constraints drive the best creativity.
Exactly.
Right. So like you can be creative and be like, bah, 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 chase a butterfly. But if you funnel it into like one area, now you're really making something that matters, So yeah, being within that constraint of like, how clear are we? And that led, right? Like when you talk about lightning strikes is not just a marketing event. It's also product and all this other stuff. Right. So like everything we did with the product coming up to it was, how do we, make sure that this is driving that experience that is, making people believe this is a teammate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
that's a big thing. And then of course in lightning strikes, there's like little wow moments that you want to create, right? Like that robot was a wow moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that really, really helps. That's creativity, right? Like getting people butts in the seats, tying it into a narrative. Oh, another thing I forgot, another wow moment that we created that was part of the story as well, is that we were releasing like our AI before this wasn't really that. And it was that then, right? So like the clients that we had, they still, while they were super happy with us, they still hadn't experienced this. So like I looked at like our like 8 biggest evangelist clients that were going to be at this show. And I
Mhm.
mailed them these like Meta Ray-Ban glasses with a
Right.
personal note saying, hey, since you saw the future and bet on us early, I want you to have the most futuristic glasses in the game. Do me a favor before you put these on, text me so I can teach you how to use them and teach you how to like use these new AI agents that you have access to.
Mhm.
Right. So like, and then we had a giveaway that was win a pair of AI Ray-Bans so you can see the future as well.
Yeah.
Right. So like all of it tied into the story. And also, by the way, those clients were also distribution, right? Like they were walking around. I didn't even think about the fact that they'd all be wearing the Meta glasses at the conference. I was just trying to get them to like record them using the AI agent with the Meta glasses so I could use it for content, which didn't work. But then because they were all wearing AI Meta Ray-Bans, people were like, what are those things? And they were talking about it, and like it was bringing more people to us, right?
So was this all within that $50,000 budget for the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually like $47,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you were able to do all that stuff and get the rate. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because I got the room for free, right?
Yeah.
Like I got that big ass room for free. That was huge, man.
Mhm.
Like I spent the robot was the most expensive thing. The robot cost $7,000. The AI Pavilion structure cost like 12 grand.
Mhm.
And then the demo stands, right? Like it was all like all the stuff was like maybe 25, 26 grand. And then it was all like the travel and all the shit, like of like
Mhm.
having people there. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So that's how we did it, right? And those are kind of like the things that you got to think of to do a lightning strike, right? Like the butts in the seats. You get that through distribution. You get good distribution through social validation, and then you get, like you get people to like change when there's a really, really great from to story that you're telling, and you also want to have these like wow moments that create word of mouth.
Mhm.
The non-obvious insights out of all of this, right?
Yes.
I was only able to do this because I have a content co-creation engine that I can leverage.
Oh,
Right.
thank you so much for bringing this up because I really wanted to talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like the NARPM partnership distribution, the AI summit distribution of it all, like like all the podcasts as a trade show thing. I cannot understate how valuable it is for like for me, my company to be the stage. Like my first employee, this guy JP, who's my creative director now, he was a video editor, graphic designer, man. Like having the ability to like post edit content and create content for people, that is like the magical juice of distribution and finding alliances and getting people and that social validation, all of that piece together.
Mhm.
Right. So like I think anybody that wants to really create a lightning strike or right, like take over a category, you got to figure out a piece to become, you got to figure out how to not just become a publishing engine yourself, but
Yeah.
how to like empower other people to publish things based on this like narrative that you're telling.
Right.
And that is crucial to the story.
Right. So co-creation meaning you and your guests, partners, clients together are creating content in a situation like this, like a podcast or a,
Yeah, just find a way to do it, right? Like I mean, our process now that we offer as a service is like super advanced in the sense that we can take any video and turn it into a podcast or like little pieces or newsletters or whatever, right? And we very strategically use the podcast as a trade show booth as like the way to do it to start, right? Like if you are not well known in an industry and you got to make a name for yourself in an industry, you can
Mhm.
show up selling your stuff. Or you can show up saying, hey, I want to talk to people about like this thing that we both care about. And then I want to help you promote yourself.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
that was like that was the thing that cracked open the door for us to like shortcut this. You got to pay your dues period that everybody was expecting that like, sure, you can do that if you want to wait that long. But like, and yes, other companies have done that, but like in the venture back SaaS, the venture back tech company world, like where you got to go 1,000 miles an hour, that just didn't work. Like those economics wouldn't work. And at the end of the day, as a solopreneur, you don't have to wait either if you show up like that, right? Like this way of doing it, have a content co-creation engine, and then like at trade shows, show up with that content co-creation engine as your engagement is like absolutely the move, with a central narrative that's a POV that is talking about this problem that people want to engage in this conversation.
Yeah. Hey, so I had a question about your podcast booth setup. Just like to turn a booth into a podcast booth, like what's the cost of all the equipment that you had to set up? What was involved? What are the different pieces of the puzzle, and like what's the cost of the podcast?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, man. You really, honestly, if you want to do it yourself, and I've taught people how to do this themselves, all you need is an iPhone, a couple of those like when I want to go ghetto, I bring an iPhone, a tripod for the iPhone. There's just like, you can plug in like a piece into your iPhone that then gives you like lavalier mics that you can put on 2 other tripods, and then 2 like LED lights, and you're cooking, right? Like you're able to do it at that point, right? What I do when I want to provide more of an experience is I hire a local cameraman, right? Like I hire a local video producer that comes, and generally when you hire like a local video producer, maybe like a third of what you're paying them is for them to show up. And then like 2/3 of it is like the post-production and all that other stuff. Because I have the post-production in-house, I can just pay them their day rate to show up. And really what I need is their equipment.
Yeah.
So they're just showing up with their equipment. So we're showing up with like lights and camera and it all looks like super legit. And you can really build that into a trade show booth. I then also very much lean into the experience, since I have my editing team offshore. When we are at these like trade show booths, we are uploading that footage as soon as we get out of there. My team in the Philippines is making sizzle reels overnight of each guest. And we're now then gifting each guest like here's a sizzle reel of you looking like you were an expert at this conference. And you best believe that they love posting that stuff online. And now you start getting that distribution online and in the trade show, and all those other things. And then the last thing is just like, man, when you're at a trade show booth, most of the time people are walking by like, what are these guys selling? And what kind of trash can I pick up to like take my kid as a gift that they're giving away? Right. when you have, and they're like avoiding eye contact with you in order to figure that out so they can pass by you. When you have lights and microphone, what's up?
That's so true, man. Avoiding the eye contact.
It's a fishbowl. It's a fishbowl feeling, right?
Yeah.
When you have lights and cameras and people speaking, people like walking by more like, whoa, who's on TV? Like, should I know that person? Right. And then like when they're doing that, somebody from your team can be like, hey, what do you, like, they're like, what's going on? You're like, oh, well, we're talking to thought leaders of this thing about this thing. What do you think about it? And they say something like, oh, that's really smart, man. You want to come on the thing? Right. So like, it creates a differentiated engagement. So that was huge, man. Like the ability to do that is the reason why I was able to create all these like distribution mechanisms and not have to pay for all the stuff that I would have had to pay for. Right. Like if it wasn't the case, and yeah, man, that's like, to me, that's really like, if you really zoom out, that's what worked here.
Yeah.
But the really like interesting meta thing about this is I was just talking to Chris about this, right? Like, I feel like Chris and I,
Christopher Lockhead, right?
No, your boy, Chris Stanley.
Chris Stanley. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Chris and I have been the 2 guys that came from outside the tech category design world that weren't already kind of like in that club, that have found a way into that club and like now know these people intimately and like are associated with them and can text them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's because we have figured out a way to like serve with our superpower, right? Like Chris figured out how to do mini books. So then Al and Lockhead hired him to help with like the lightning strike book. Right. Or the existing market trap book. Yeah. I figured out how to do this like repurposing community thing. So I was able to like partner up with Kevin and Damp and build a category thinkers community piece. Right. So this content co-creation thing of like how you figure out how to help other people make content through like your frameworks is truly the door into wherever you want to get in, man. For me, it's gotten me into the category design world. Like it's gotten me into like this AI world. Like it's gotten me written about in the Ultimate Sales Machine, right? Like it's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's helped me grow my business because of the fact that, because I'm providing content services to tech founders,
100%.
especially Gen X and, boomer founders who are kind of like maybe not as digital savvy as, Gen Z and millennials. But the thing that really gets them the hook is that I'm going to interview them and they're going to become a thought leader because their video is going to be out there on LinkedIn and YouTube, and their thoughts are going to be out there, the whole founder-led marketing thing. And that's what, and they've really taken to it. I mean, they really, that's kind of almost what they were secretly wanting to do anyway. They just didn't know how to do it, but the content co-creation thing, it's huge. And yeah, I think it's fantastic.
And you're doing it right now, man. Like you're doing it right now, right? Like now you have your brand in the world of lightning strikes and category design has forever leveled up because you put on one of the few events in the world where people got together for 2 days to like talk about it. Mm-hmm. Right. So like just like mine and Chris's like brand and like category design has gone up, yours just leveled up as well, because at the end of the day, like figure out that thing that you can help people do to like go content co-create. And if you can't, like if you don't have that in-house, then find somebody like you, me, or Chris. But like if you want to go do a virtual summit, do it with you to start and then figure out and then go build that skill set internally. If you want to go do the podcast as a trade show booth because you're like into trade, you do trade shows, do it with me. If you want to do books, do it with Chris, right? But like I think everybody really, really needs to like figure out how to co-create content with the key, like I call it, find a way to serve the people with the keys to the doors you want to open. Right? Mm-hmm. Like find a way to serve people that hold the keys to the doors that you want to open. And those are the influencers and the content creators in your industry. They're like the coaches and the advisors in your industry. They're your clients that you really want them talking to other people that are your prospects. They're your actual prospects. They're the suppliers that like, can refer you to their clients, right? Like, you gotta find that. And that like, socially validated distribution channel is massive.
Yeah. Perfect. So I wanted to know if anybody else has any questions for Pablo about trade show booth activation, lightning strike events, with all these really cool elements that combine to make a very powerful from to, or as Eddie Yoon likes to say, a Frodo. Right. So
Frodo was the language in Play Bigger.
Aha. Okay. That in Play Bigger. So Frodo, F-R-O-T-O. Let me just which is basically from to. So that's it. Frodo from to, which to me, I think that's really one of the biggest. So the two big takeaways from your session here, Pablo, is number one is the content co-creation. Well, it's actually three: content co-creation. Number two is having a point of view, right? It's not just you're not just co-creating content through podcasts and through other types of things, just to kind of talk about you and your product and your company, but it's really designing that. Where's your audience right now? What's the current situation they're in, and where do you want to take them? Okay. And then number three is the
Frodo, bro.
Yeah, the Frodo. Yeah, which is yeah, exactly. It's designing that, and I think that for the next event that I organized, I'm going to have a much clearer Frodo. I mean, I did have a sort of a little bit of a pretty good idea, but I didn't make it a central organizing thought, central organizing thought, right? So. Hold on one second. Okay, and so Pablo, we're going to share Pablo's LinkedIn information right over here. Okay, Pablo just shared that. There's you all can go into the comments, and this is what Victoria Westcott taught me. You can actually go into the chat and actually click on that, and it'll open up a link, and you can go connect with Pablo. All right, so PJ Christie, he's another local Austin boy just like me. Pablo, how do you decide if an idea is core to what you do or a distraction from your primary focus? Like I get so distracted by tech developments.
Yeah. Be crystal clear on your point of view, man. Right? Like, I'll tell you, when I first set out to do what I'm doing today, it looked very different, right? Like I did not have this language around community creation for business development before, right? I was just kind of like trying to figure out how to continue to like how to like amplify, how to serve with my superpower, right? Like I felt like I was asleep at the wheel at work. And my first couple of iterations were inside my career, I started using it to become a business developer. Then I joined the startup and I proved it beyond, like at a much bigger scale. And then I left that startup. The partnership, like I proved my thesis, but the partnership wasn't right. And during that time, a guy like me gets a lot of job offers, right? Like I have a big network. I talk pretty. I know how to get business. And I remember my wife telling me, hey, why don't you take like 90 days to figure out what you really want instead of just like the next opportunity. And in those 90 days was what I call my purposeful pause. That's where I came up with this idea of like, I want to prove that community creation is the future of business development. And from the moment that I decided that, that became my point of view, right? The moment that I decided that, every opportunity that came my way, you know, I might not be moving straight towards it. I might be like tacking like a sailboat, but I won't say yes to anything that doesn't get me closer to it. And that's really it, right? Like getting really crystal clear on what you want and what your point of view is, right? Like the difference between like a mission or a mission statement or like a slogan or whatever and a point of view is a point of view has like it has perspective, right? Like it has like a traveling kind of like motion to it. So finding where the point is on your point of view is the number one thing that you need to do, and then decide, is this something that might be taking me 2 steps to the right, but is it taking me 1 step forward, right? If it's not anywhere close to that, then you decide not to do it.
Perfect. I love that answer. Okay, so Amber, she says, this model clearly works in product-led, revenue-driven ecosystems. How would you adapt a low budget conference hijack strategy for open source or communities of practice where influence, trust, and contribution often matter more than pipeline? What would you change and what would you keep the same?
I've done this, right? Like this is just the first time that I did it for like exactly what you just said, but I've done it for myself. I would do, all right. So here's the model. If you have this POV, right? Like figure out, first of all, you're inside that community. What is the different thing that you have inside that community, right? Like create, like, what is the change you want to see in the world that affects that community? Start a podcast about that. If you don't have enough contacts to get people on that podcast, to get you started just podcast wise, start it as a podcast, as a trade show booth to like develop those contacts. Once you do the podcast as a trade show booth for like 12 to 24 episodes, right? That's like 3 to 6 months. You're going to be able to look back and say, who are the 8 to 15 people that I had a conversation with here that really are the ones that I want to really partner with to like go on and like do more of this. And then you start inviting them to do content co-creation, not just with you, but with you and each other. Do a virtual event, right? Like do a virtual lightning strike. Do a panel at the next event that you guys are going to do, you know, like get the side room of a restaurant and invite like the 3 most attractive characters that you've met on that to have your own little side event happy hour where you talk on stage with them in an in-person way. If you do that motion, right? Like you continue to content co-create, you continue to like dial in who are the people that you want to bring closest to like the nucleus, and bring and introduce to each other. Within 12 to 24 months, you will have all the ingredients you need to host your own event. And that's what I have seen. That's what I have seen all of my clients go through, right? Like I guarantee you within 12 months, we will be hosting our own event at Vendaroo as well, because we're going through the same thing. I did it with the exhibit house. I did it with JWB, the real estate company, right? Like, and they're not product led. It's not pipeline. It's all heavily relational with very different types of sales processes. But like, you basically go from like somebody that has an interesting conversation in somebody else's watering hole and borrowing that watering hole to creating your own watering hole. If you get really crystal clear around the POV and you start attracting people into that center of that POV through your own things that you're co-creating with them.
And that was the $1,000 answer that people, I mean, I swear, you know, if somebody wants to hire you to, you know, that would have been worth the $1,000 right there. And then that answer right there, man.
Yeah, okay. That's it, man.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're doing it too right now, Fernando, right? Like you have been podcasting and making these books, and now you picked a handful of people that you want to be more guilty by association with, and you want them to know each other, and you're hosting your own event. Like you're on the same path. It's the path.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think we have room for one more question with a short answer. And then we're going to bring Audra Carpenter onto the stage. And I'm going to actually, for everybody's benefit, I'm going to put up the link for Audra's talk. So you all can go over there and see that. But anybody have any additional questions? There's, oh gosh, I keep on opening the links. Okay. Anybody have any additional, okay, questions? Pablo says, great questions, Amber and PJ.
Yeah, I was just saying, thanks for giving me the opportunity to answer that stuff, right? Like, and I don't take lightly people taking an hour of their day to like listen to me yap on with you over here.
Well, Pablo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man.
I know you're super busy, but I can tell that when you get into these situations, Pablo, it's like you're in your zone, man. And it's just kind of a thing of beauty to watch. So appreciate it. And maybe you and I can both swim in some shark-infested waters one day and see if we can both survive together.
Man, I follow a bunch of Instagram accounts that's like drones filming great whites swimming around people. Because I really think we need to normalize the fact that sharks don't want to fucking bite you, man. We're disgusting to them. Like that's just a movie. That's an idea in a movie that they put in your head. Yes, they're wild animals. Don't mess with them, but we don't have to like villainize sharks.
Yeah,
that's it. That's my TED talk. And buy a reusable water bottle. Save the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Exactly. Right. Well, listen, I'm gonna do a little 2-minute pause for a bio break and to get my coffee, and then we're gonna bring Audra Carpenter in. Go ahead and go to this link, and I'm gonna take you off stage here, Pablo. Talk to you later.
Dude, great work putting this together, Fernando. Thanks for having me.
Gracias, man. Bye-bye.